She lay on the ground, sweat beading on her brow. Her dress lay discarded beside her, revealing her naked form. The man between her legs thrust into her vigorously, his grunts filling the air. Despite the urgency in their movements, it was clear she was encouraging him, her expression conveying more than words ever could. Observing her through the binoculars, I knew this wasn't a rape. They had walked hand in hand to the secluded cluster of trees, unmistakably lovers. Yet, deep within me, my heart shattered. It was undeniable proof of the issue plaguing our relationship. Watching her with him, I saw a woman yearning for fulfillment. The unsettling part was that it was my wife beneath him, not me. How had it come to this? I didn't have all the answers yet, but I was determined to uncover the truth. She remained oblivious to my knowledge of her infidelity, and I intended to keep it that way for the time being. Our sexual intimacy had waned in recent years, initially attributed to her post-pregnancy hormonal changes after our third child. Now, it was evident I had been mistaken about the root cause. She continued to be a loving and devoted wife, deeply involved in our family's life. This hidden side of her had only recently surfaced, prompted by an anonymous phone call tipping me off. Perhaps the caller was a scorned lover of the man entangled with my wife. What was my next move? I had captured them on film, digital camera, to be precise, and had stumbled upon incriminating emails by snooping through her phone one night while she slept beside me. The emails weren't explicit, but the affectionate tone directed at a man who wasn't her husband spoke volumes. I knew the man, Tom Harper, a local insurance salesman, and married. Tom, the charming man about town, was revealing his true colors. Not so much the good guy after all, but rather adept at destroying marriages. Retreating from my hiding spot behind the trees, I made my way back to my car. Standing there was Mrs. Tom Harper, and did she know why I was there? So, you caught them up there? Did you get some good footage of their affair? She inquired. Yes, I saw them, and I suspected Tom for a while now. This was supposed to be our day out, but he had a sudden emergency. I didn't buy it. He's an insurance man, for heaven's sake, insurance men don't have emergencies. What's your plan, Ann? I was hoping you'd share a copy of the footage with me. If you have any other evidence of their infidelity, I have some too. Let's make a trade, shall we? I'm still trying to process everything. Process? Are you kidding me? They're cheating on us, lying, sneaking around, and having an affair. And you're not sure what to do? Well, despite it all, my wife is loving at home and a good mother. I'm not sure if I want to divorce her. You're not into that cuckold stuff, are you? No, definitely not. Look, I'll share what I have, and you can share what you have, but I don't want to be involved beyond that. I need to figure out what I want to do. You're a strange one, Dave. Your wife is cheating on you, and you're unsure about what to do. Yeah, it's complicated. I gave her my heart 15 years ago, and I can't just take it back in a moment. Plus, we have 3 kids, and I'm not sure what to do about them either. I love my family, and I'm lost right now. You've just found out, haven't you? This is the first time you've seen the proof? Yeah. I came across some emails the other day, but this is the first visual evidence I've had. Then you don't know about the others? Others? She's been with multiple men, sometimes all at once. One of them was caught by his wife in bed with your wife and 3 other men. She filed for divorce and told me about it. Tom was one of the men. It felt like a punch to the gut. More than just Tom? My wife with several men at once. I couldn't believe it. And must be lying because of Tom's involvement. I have proof. Pictures and videos the guys made. Her husband didn't hide them well, and during their divorce, those videos cost him dearly. Videos? More than one? Oh God. I felt sick, but thankfully, I was outside. I wouldn't have wanted to make a mess in my car. My wife, a porn star? It was unthinkable. What had happened to her? And stepped back, looking concerned, as I finished my episode of sickness. I straightened myself out, wishing I hadn't come here. Okay, do you have a computer at home? I could email it to you. Why don't you come over to my place? I'll give you copies of the videos and anything else I have. It'll be easier. I accompanied Ann to her place, my mind consumed by the shocking revelation of my wife's infidelity. Not only was she cheating on me, but she was also involved in group encounters and activities that I couldn't bear to dwell on at that moment. Later that day, at home, I watched one of the videos. I was horrified by what I witnessed. Nikki engaging in acts she had never allowed with me, with multiple men. It was devastating to see her in that light, participating in acts I couldn't even fathom. My entire world seemed to be crumbling around me as I sat in my den, trying to process the reality of my wife's betrayal. I arranged for the kids to stay at Nikki's parents' house that night, under the guise of needing to work out some issues with her. As Nikki returned home, unaware of my presence due to my supposed business trip, I watched in disbelief as she entered with men behind her, already groping at her dress. Her shock upon seeing me was evident as she realized her secret was out. In that moment, with a firearm in hand, I confronted her about the affair, revealing that I had followed her and obtained evidence of her infidelity. Nikki's reaction was one of despair, collapsing to the floor in tears as the weight of her actions crashed down on her. Closing the door to shield our conversation from prying eyes, I stood there, surprisingly void of any strong emotions. Despite the gravity of the situation, I felt nothing but a sense of numbness, a detachment from the reality of the betrayal before me. I made my way to the kitchen, retrieving a soda from the fridge before sitting down to collect my thoughts. Despite the gravity of the situation, I felt strangely detached, my emotions dulled by the overwhelming emptiness inside. Sipping on the soda, I stared blankly into space, unable to muster any immediate reaction. "Dave? Honey, I'm sorry. I am so sorry." I remained motionless, silent, hardly even breathing. I don't know how it all happened. I just don't know how it got so far out of hand. Out of hand? As if it started with just one guy, one time? Maybe an affair with just one person? Or perhaps one party with multiple men? Out of hand? Is that the extent of it? Nikki broke down in tears and fled the room. I sat there, immobile, for what felt like hours. Eventually, I roused myself and went to the bathroom. Passing our bedroom, I heard Nikki still crying on the bed, speaking on the phone. After exiting the bathroom, I resolved to leave. Entering our bedroom, I began packing my belongings, ignoring Nikki's pleas for me to stay and listen to her explanations. As I packed, she grew increasingly frantic. "Dave, please wait. Can't we talk about it? Please? I'm sorry, I don't want to lose you, please." "Nikki, you lost me the moment I saw that first video of you. I may have been able to forgive you before, but now I realize I don't even know who you are anymore. You're a stranger to me, and I don't like what I see. I can change. I changed once, I can do it again. I'll be faithful to you. I know I messed up, but I can be your wife again. I love you, I can't live without you, Dave. Please, give me a chance to prove it to you. I need some time away. The kids are with your parents. You'll have to pick them up. If you have time between your other activities, that is. I'll be in touch. Goodbye, Nikki." Leaving her in the bedroom, I headed to my car. Loading my clothes and grabbing my firearm, I realized there was nothing left for me in that house. Despite the turmoil, I couldn't summon any anger or sorrow, just numbness. I spent the night at a motel, and since it was still early, I arranged for a meeting with an attorney the next day. Alone in the motel room, I logged onto my laptop and made some financial adjustments to our accounts. I transferred a significant portion of our funds into my personal brokerage account, leaving Nikki with half. Tempted to take it all, I ultimately decided against it, thinking of our children. I emptied our savings, leaving only $15.08. I hoped Nikki would understand the symbolism behind that amount, 15 years and 8 months of marriage now reduced to mere change. Knowing her, though, she might not grasp it immediately. I called Nikki's mom and informed her that I had moved out. I didn't disclose the reason, but it seemed she already had an idea. Nikki made a grave mistake, Dave. But she loves you, you know. Are you certain there's no way to reconcile? I don't see a way to fix this, Mom. Nikki crossed a line I can't forgive. I still love her, but what she did, I just can't get past it. I hope you and George won't hold it against me. I love you both. We're here for you, Dave. We understand. We love you too. If you ever need to talk. Thank you, Mom. I appreciate that. Maybe we can have dinner when things settle down? That would be nice. Take care, Dave. Good night, Mom. Aware of the stages of divorce, I knew the coming weeks would be tumultuous. Blame, anger, and eventually acceptance would follow. I needed to find a stable living situation before the emotions hit. The following weeks were grueling. I rented an apartment and received legal counsel on matters I hadn't considered. Nikki bombarded me with calls, but I refused to answer. Her persistent attempts to communicate turned into stalking. I ignored her, walking past her when she showed up at my workplace. This routine continued for weeks until one day, she wasn't there. A pang of sadness washed over me, realizing it was truly over. My attorney informed me of a scheduled meeting with Nikki and her lawyer to discuss the divorce. I agreed, but as I sat at my desk afterward, I found myself lost in thought, unable to focus on work. That night, a wave of anger crashed over me unexpectedly. I felt the urge to lash out at someone or something, but I resolved not to let that anger consume me. Instead, I focused on finding ways to prevent bitterness from taking over my life. I refused to let Nikki's actions define my future. The following morning, I went to work with a surprisingly positive mindset. Despite the turmoil in my personal life, my career was thriving. I had always been diligent about keeping work separate from home, rarely bringing it home with me or working long hours. Most days, I left work at 5 and didn't think about it until the next morning. While I usually kept work at the office, there were times when certain projects would weigh on my mind outside of work hours. I'd allow myself to think about them briefly, knowing that ignoring them would only lead to more stress. One thing Nikki couldn't accuse me of was prioritizing work over family. That's what troubled me the most about our situation. I couldn't understand why she had done what she did. Our sex life and home life had seemed fine to me, albeit a bit off in the last year, which I now realized was due to Nikki, not me. I tried to trace back when this behavior might have started, but I couldn't pinpoint any specific moment. It seemed to have happened suddenly. 2 days before the lawyer's appointment, a coworker approached me looking uneasy. "Hey, Dan. What's on your mind?" "Dave, I need to talk to you about something personal, off the clock. Can we meet at my place tonight? It's about Nikki, and my wife insists I share it with you. She wants to talk to you too." Surprised by his request, I agreed, curious and apprehensive about what they had to show me. I didn't know Dan or his wife well, and I hadn't even realized he was married. Nonetheless, I couldn't shake the feeling of anticipation and unease as I waited for the evening to arrive. That evening at Dan and Julie's place, I discovered something shocking. I was a movie star, albeit in a way I never could have imagined. At first, I thought they were playing a prank on me, but my disbelief turned to shock when they revealed what they had found. "Dave, it's unfortunate that we're meeting under such circumstances," Julie began. "Yeah, I agree. Dan mentioned you have something to show me?" I replied. "Yes, but we need to keep this quiet. Dan's job has strict moral clauses," Julie cautioned. "Moral clauses? Are you guys swingers or something?" I asked. "No, not at all. We, have a hobby," Dan chimed in. "A hobby?" "Yeah, Dave, we write erotic stories for certain websites. It's become quite a thing for us," Julie explained. "I see. I understand why you want to keep that under wraps, especially with your job. I won't say anything, though. In fact, I might even check out some of your stories," I responded. As Dan struggled to broach the main topic, I could sense Julie's nervousness. Wanting to alleviate the tension, I opened up about my own situation. "Listen, I know you're probably going to show me something related to my wife, Nikki. We're going through a divorce because she's been involved with other men. I found out recently. We're meeting with lawyers soon to sort it all out. Don't worry about me. I can handle whatever you're about to show me, I reassured them. Julie's demeanor shifted, and she spoke with a solemn tone. Dave, what we're about to show you, it's serious. We believe you and Nikki were secretly filmed without your knowledge. Dan thought you needed to know. Confused and apprehensive, I braced myself for what they were about to reveal. Little did I know, I was about to confront a truth that would shatter any remaining illusions I had about my marriage. All right, let's see it then. I'm a bit confused at the moment, but if the situation is as serious as you both seem to suggest, I need to be aware of it so I can take appropriate action before the company becomes aware. What they revealed to me was deeply unsettling. I felt a surge of emotions, with anger being just one of them. I couldn't fathom that Nikki would ever betray or deceive me in such a way. It left me feeling even more devastated than discovering her infidelity. Dan and Julie had stumbled upon a movie featuring Nikki, with me in a minor role. I had no knowledge of its existence. As I watched, I couldn't comprehend how such events, which must have transpired to capture me on film, had eluded my awareness. The movie began with a scene of me kissing Nikki goodbye one morning as I left for work. I distinctly remembered that morning because it was the first time I had seen Nikki wearing a bathrobe she had recently purchased. Prior to that, she had never been one to wear bathrobes. Her usual attire consisted of sweatshirts and shorts. The footage showed me leaving the house, appearing completely unaware of being filmed, with the camera following me as I walked to my car and drove off. I couldn't recall anyone being on the street at that time, which puzzled me. That particular morning held memories for me, as I had contemplated calling in sick. Nikki had woken me up with a sexual act, leaving me aroused but withholding release. I had dressed with an erection, anticipating her promise of something special later that evening. What troubled me most was realizing that Nikki had orchestrated this without my knowledge, playing the role of my loving wife convincingly. She was a skilled actress, as I hadn't suspected anything or noticed being filmed. Driving away that morning with an erection had made for a difficult day, and returning home to find Nikki waiting for me naked, with the kids staying at her mother's, resulted in another intense encounter. What struck me the most was how intense that day had been, particularly our intimate moments. As soon as I walked in the door, Nikki initiated oral sex, and later, we engaged in more intimate activities on the couch. In the heat of the moment, I couldn't recall the specifics of her arousal. After watching the movie, I felt nauseous, especially at the part depicting my return home. A narrator's voice accompanied my departure in the movie. Dave heads off to work while Nikki prepares for her day at home. Dave is portrayed as a cuckold, working all day while Nikki entertains other men at home. He's resigned to this dynamic, believing it's necessary to maintain his relationship with Nikki. I was utterly humiliated and sickened as I watched the portrayal of my cuckoldry unfold before me, feeling as though I had been complicit in its production. As the movie progressed, I discovered footage of the morning encounter with Nikki, which I had overlooked. I couldn't understand how I hadn't noticed another person in the house with us. Barely down the street, Nikki was depicted engaging in sexual activities with multiple men, with others waiting their turn in the background. The filming continued throughout the day, capturing Nikki's continuous sexual encounters. Just before my return home, the men left, while the camera person and Nikki conversed. Nikki fabricated lies about us and discussed her need for other men to compensate for my supposed inadequacies. As I approached the house, the camera person discreetly filmed Nikki undressing and awaiting my arrival. They captured explicit acts of intimacy, including oral sex and intercourse, as Nikki led me into our bedroom. Certain segments were disjointed, indicating the presence of another camera person in our bedroom. Despite my considerable size, the narration falsely portrayed me as being small in that regard. I was completely clueless. They were cunning, incredibly so. Nikki played her part convincingly. After our intimate moment in the bedroom, I took a shower, and during that time, the camera person left. When I emerged, Nikki was waiting for me, and I sat there in shock while Dan and Julie comforted me. Julie held my hand, and Dan had his hand on my shoulder. Eventually, I couldn't hold back my tears. I couldn't fathom how Nikki could betray me in such a cruel manner, portraying me as weak and submissive. How could she do that to her own husband? It was almost unbearable. After a while, Dan broke the silence. There are 3 more movies featuring you, and it gets worse. You're depicted as a complete pushover, which I know isn't true since I know you personally. I also consulted my lawyer, and he informed us that this site could face serious legal consequences. Without your consent, they're in deep trouble. We've already pulled our works from the site as of yesterday. We found out about the movies 4 days ago, but they've been up for quite some time. I felt my anger rising. Dan and Julie could see I was about to lose control, so they began speaking to calm me down. Dave, what's done is done. But you need to strategize now. Think. You might want to retaliate, but it's crucial to hit them where it hurts the most. Use the legal system to your advantage. Hit them in the wallet and pursue justice with everything you've got. You'll be meeting your soon-to-be ex-wife and her lawyer soon. You can use this movie as evidence against her. What they did was blatantly illegal. They've been profiting off you without your knowledge. So, seek legal retribution? Yes. Our lawyer specializes in entertainment law. He's well-versed in copyrights, permissions, and agreements within the film and music industries. He assured us you have a strong case against not only Nikki but also the filmmakers and the website. That night marked a profound change in me. I was no longer afraid of a life without Nikki. I was enraged, as I rightfully should have been all along. I was now prepared to fight. A fight that could potentially land Nikki and her associates in prison if justice prevailed. A fight that could also bring me significant financial compensation. The meeting with Nikki and the lawyers went remarkably well. I had managed to secure representation from Dan and Julie's lawyer, who was already acquainted with the case and agreed to take me on. He joined me at the meeting, where I came prepared with clips and photos as evidence. Initially, the meeting aimed to convince me to reconsider the divorce and reconcile with Nikki. For the first few minutes, Nikki professed her love for me and pledged her fidelity going forward. However, it was my turn to speak. Well, Nikki, you have the upper hand here. You claim to love me and want to be faithful, yet I have evidence suggesting otherwise. Evidence that could potentially lead to legal repercussions for you. What? Dave, what are you talking about? I only cheated on you. No, Nikki, you seem to forget about the movies. Movies featuring both of us that have surfaced online. Movies that tarnish my reputation, made without my consent or knowledge. In our home, on our property. Even in our bedroom. All without my knowledge or consent. As I spoke, I presented the photos, and my lawyers began playing the movie clips. Nikki turned pale, clearly stunned. Her lawyer attempted to intervene, demanding proof of our claims, but I simply shook my head, locking eyes with Nikki. I actually considered reconciling with you. I genuinely believed I could trust you to be truthful. Until a friend directed me to a certain website. These movies and photos prove otherwise. I can never trust you again. You not only cheated on me but also filmed it for pornographic movies, depicting me as a weak cuckold husband. You humiliated me. Perhaps I was naive for not realizing you were filming me. Perhaps I should feel like a cuckold too, but here's the difference. At the time, I trusted you. You were my wife, and I trusted you with my life. Now, I know the truth. You never loved me. We're done. Take your lawyer and hope he can keep you out of jail. Goodbye. I left the room, leaving my lawyers to negotiate with hers. In the end, Nikki conceded everything. I gained custody of the house, the children, and the cars. I even managed to reclaim some of the money from our accounts. I left $15.08 on the table for her. It finally dawned on her as she stared at the money. 15 years, 8 months. She mouthed the words 15 years. My lawyers initiated legal action against her lovers for alienation of affection, the filmmakers for illegally recording me, and the website for profiting from the illegal films. Most of the case was handed over to the local authorities, who pursued it vigorously. I filed lawsuits against the company responsible for producing and holding the movies, as well as the internet site that published them. Eventually, I received compensation amounting to over 7 figures for the pain, embarrassment, and defamation of character I endured. This settlement wiped out both companies involved. While Nikki narrowly avoided jail time, she was sentenced to probation, which remains on the record. Several years have passed, and I've moved forward. It's a relief to no longer live under that cloud. During the trials of those who exploited me, I met a kind and beautiful woman who was covering the story as a reporter. Our initial date blossomed into something more, and we've been happily married for 3 months now. My new wife struggles to comprehend why Nikki let me go and why she acted as she did. She often tells me that I'm the best catch she could have hoped for. One thing my new wife understands is that I am far from weak. I'm also a fortunate catch myself. My wife excels in cooking, expressing love, and intimacy. She also has a strong bond with the children, who have distanced themselves from their mother, partly due to the court's concerns about her influence. It seems that some courts still uphold certain standards. Nikki's parents were devastated when the truth emerged. They largely severed ties with her upon learning of her deliberate manipulation of me. Conversely, they have embraced their grandchildren and me, warmly accepting my wife, Sue, into the family. As for Nikki, she experienced a significant decline in health during the trial and was later diagnosed with AIDS. The kids and I underwent regular testing for AIDS due to Nikki's past activities, all of which yielded negative results. The man who initially filmed Nikki and later involved me was convicted on multiple charges and is currently serving a 10 to 20-year sentence. Some of his accomplices, including one of the camera persons who was his wife, received probation after turning state's evidence. In the end, I believe things have worked out for the best. It's still hard to fathom how Nikki deceived me for so long. I believe she may have loved me at one point, but she fell under the influence of those men, and everything changed. While she will face consequences, I never wished harm upon her. Life can indeed be unforgiving, especially for some. Thanks for watching and have a great day. Write your opinion in the comments.